This episode of the Dungeoncast is brought to you by 3DGos. 3DGos offers an extensive library of thousands of high-quality Dungeons & Dragons terrains, miniatures, dice, and accessories. All the terrains they make are made in the USA with the highest regard for quality. Every item goes through a rigorous quality check and a cleanup process before it's shipped out. Speaking of shipping, it's quick. All dice sets are shipped out the same day, and terrains are sent out in only 1 to 7 days. The team over at 3DGos was kind enough to send us some of their products to try out, so William and I had a blast setting up our little tavern scenario here. Check it out. This is only the beginning. 3DGos.com has everything you need to spice up your table. They've got beautiful dice, terrain, dice boxes, stuff that's painted. It's really cool. You guys should definitely go check it out. They have great customer support. If you have any issues, painting questions, or anything about the product, just contact them. They'll get back to you within 2 hours. Shopping with 3DGos is risk-free. They have a 30-day return policy and no questions asked. New terrain and dice designs are coming out daily, so you're sure to find something that works for you and your table. You can check out 3DGos.com right now. There's a link in the description below. Go there and see what they have to help you spice up your next game. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm William.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything tabletop role-playing games.
And today we are talking about the Orbs of Dragonkind.
1, 2, 3, 4. Shout out to
Welcome, adventurers, to the Dungeoncast.
Hey, Brian.
William, are they round?
Yes, they are
Or
orbular.
I guess spherical?
They are spherical.
Be more accurate.
Orbular's a word. And they are orbular because they're orbs.
Orbular.
Brian, tell me the name of this goddamn year.
It's the year of the artifact.
That's
William.
right.
We make things.
It's the year of the artifact.
We make shows.
We do make shows. Our shows are artifacts, perhaps.
Oh, some of them definitely are now because they've been sitting in the feed for a long time.
Yes, it's
Go
very
check
true.
out old episodes. They're cool.
And you know what? It's been looking pretty scarce of artifacts around here lately, if you ask me.
You think so?
Yeah, a lot of stuff's been going on this year and messing with our artifact production line.
That's true.
It's very
Hasbro. Not my bro.
Well,
Not my bro.
I don't know if this helps make up for that, but the fact is we are today technically talking about 5 different artifacts.
Neat.
Not just one.
Okay.
That's right. There are 5 different Orbs of Dragonkind, and we will go over all of them. I'm pretty excited to talk about this topic because in a sort of roundabout and in other ways, a direct way, it's a Dragonlance topic. This is a Dragonlance episode. Hey, everybody, welcome to Dragonlance.
Awesome.
The Orbs of Dragonkind, or how I grew up knowing them, the Dragon Orbs, made their original debut in the Chronicles trilogy of Dragonlance. But any questions before we dive into another episode where we get to talk about dragons?
When you collect them all, do you get to make a wish
No, you do not.
on a dragon
No,
with reindeer ears?
No, they're definitely not.
Okay.
No.
Ears, antlers. That's what I meant.
I knew what you meant.
Did you know the antlers come off of those fucking animals?
Like,
Moose and reindeers and stuff?
like
They shed their
full-
antlers.
I know
and
they
then
shed the skin of them.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah,
is that
that's
the
it.
whole antler?
Yeah,
And
have
then
you
they,
seen it? It's horrifying.
yeah,
looking.
I saw some
yeah.
husky stuff, and it was and they pee on them.
Didn't hear that part, but
Reindeer also eat psychedelic mushrooms, and then they pee and they
as
get
would
rid-
I if I were them.
Well, the people can't eat them because they get sicky pies and die,
Gotcha.
but the reindeers then piss,
Mhm.
and then
Oh, no.
Yep, their immune system or their metabolism filters out the bad stuff, and then people can go find the yellow snow and go on a fun ride. Will these orbs make me do that?
No, definitely not.
Okay,
Definitely
sorry,
not.
that was a Shenlong segue. Very bad.
It was a lot of things, segue.
Yeah.
Long ago, in ages past on the world of Kryn, elves and humans wage a terrible war against evil dragons.
Evil.
Now, you might ask yourself, which of the 4 or 5 terrible wars against evil dragons are we talking about here?
Right?
I don't know. But I
One
would,
of those bad boys.
yeah, I would bet it was either the first or second Dragon War.
Okay.
Whichever Dragon War it was, at some point during it, the world seemed on the precipice of doom. Takesis and her evil chromatic dragons were poised to win. And so the wizards of the Towers of High Sorcery came together, not something that they like to do, historically speaking. And together the 3 orders met at the Tower of High Sorcery at Palanthas on a night when all 3 moons were full. The greatest mages of the age, with the assistance of the gods of magic, forged 5 Orbs of Dragonkind, or Dragon Orbs, that night to help defeat the dragons of Takesis by exuding influence and mind control over her draconic children. One orb...
This is just Dragonlance Tiamat, right?
Yes, exactly, yes. 1 orb was taken to each of the 5 towers, and there they were used to speed the war towards a victorious end.
Is it 1 orb for like each head? Was that the idea?
I've seen that messed with, but no.
Okay.
It's just
Just
there's
happened to
5
be
orbs, and each orb does have a different spirit of a different chromatic dragon in it, but that doesn't dictate what dragons you can control with it.
Okay, so they came together at the Towers of High Sorcery in like sort of a summit sort of idea.
Yeah, all the wizards
So-
of the land.
Did Sasuke show up there to try and kill them?
No, he did not.
Good. Fucking Sasuke.
So originally, all 5 of the dragon orbs, or orbs of Dragonkind, were said to all be precisely identical at 10 inches in diameter, made of fragile crystal, and having a strange mist swirling within. Ooh. The color of the mist inside the dragon orbs does vary, one color for each chromatic type. The color of the mist inside of the dragon orb does not seem to have any effect on which dragons it has power over, though.
Okay.
In the mist, just below the surface, are arcane runes for using the orb. Once someone decides to use an orb, it will expand to 20 inches in diameter, and then the mist in the orb will begin to swirl violently as the user reads aloud the runes that are just below the surface.
That's cool. So these wizards were like, this one will be blue because that's my favorite color.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, this one will be
pretty much.
orange 'cause that's what I like.
But no. There's one for each chromatic dragon color.
Oh,
though.
so there's a red.
There's a red, a blue, a black, a green, and a white.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
That's weird that they're not specific for the heads, but they have those specific colorings because it suggests that they are specific for the heads. But
okay, I read those books so long ago, and I don't remember there being specific colorings for them.
oh, okay.
But this is just what I've read in D&D source books.
I mean, it's cool looking.
Yeah.
It's cool flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Magic the Gathering real quick. So Magic the Gathering.
I mean, I guess. Will, do we have to?
We do have to.
Fucking wizards.
For some reason, Magic the Gathering has some alternative, different colored orbs, each made of a different gemstone, and each made to control a specific color of chromatic dragon. Lapis lazuli for blues, jade for greens, and carnelian for reds. This is non-canonical in any setting or any source book I could find across all D&D. This is just Magic the Gathering doing what I bet you was someone who just didn't know. It's like, yeah, there's a different color for each chromatic type, right? Because that makes sense. Just like what you just said.
I mean, yeah, it does, but also like I'm mad about it because they're from Wizards of the Coast, probably. Nah, it's cool.
So yeah, that was a Magic the Gathering thing. I don't know much else about it. Moving on. Each orb contains the essence of an evil dragon, a presence that resents any attempt to coax magic from it. And thus, each orb is an intelligent artifact with its personality reflecting what dragons it has trapped inside of it. An orb will communicate through dreams and visions rather than directly with the user. Only powerful wizards or someone with an incredible sense of self can attempt to control an orb. If they fail in this attempt, the orb takes control of them instead until one of 3 things happens. The user breaks free. Something from the outside frees the user, or the user dies of hunger and thirst.
Wow, that last one, huh?
Yep.
So like a high charisma character would be a good candidate for this.
Very much so, yeah. High charisma or high intelligence are the 2 key factors. So
Yeah, suck it, druids.
I have a Super Quest Saga fun fact.
Super Quest Saga is an actual play show that we made.
Yes.
A space opera.
It's a space opera, science fantasy adventure based off 5e D&D rules.
So a
It
whole
was a good
campaign
time.
that Will
Yeah.
ran. It was excellent. Go check it out. We're writing a book about it.
Indeed, we are writing a book about it. But fun fact from the series, this is where my idea of having you guys mentally wrestle with a draconic spirit in order to gain control of your super awesome dragon spaceship came from.
Oh, nice.
It came from
That's
the idea of the
awesome.
dragon orbs. Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yes.
I love background.
Yes, and I love Dragonlance, and so it is inherently tied to a lot
showed
of
up,
things. Yeah. So if a user is able to dominate the orb, then they are able to access massive amounts of information, see into the river of times past and future, use the orb to telepathically summon chromatic dragons, cause massive confusion upon dragon-type creatures, including draconians. They can scry and apparently do much more.
Nice.
The full list of what orb can do has never been able to be listed due to the fact that most wizards are too nervous to even attempt to use one. So these are super mega ultra like legendary artifacts. Like they were created by a culmination of the wizarding community of an entire planet.
Yeah.
And thus like they are capable of magics far above and beyond what you would normally even like. Most objects usually can only do 1 or 2 things, maybe 5 things. But these things can do just countless stuff. Whatever you want.
It's kind of a strange trope that things made in the past of a fantasy setting are typically like way more powerful than anything that's going on in the current timeline.
I think it's a combination of 2 things going on here. Number one, there's the trope of like the lost information, the lost art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we are in a time of stagnation versus the time where everything was going great.
Yeah.
But also, I liken this to modern day music. So, a lot of times you'll get people who think that like, oh, music was so much better back in the day, or
everything.
everything,
That's like a phenomenon.
That is a
happens in
phenomenon that
culture.
happens, right? And if you are a musician, particularly if you are a guitar player, there's also the phenomenon of like old guitars are fucking incredible. And the truth is because they kind of are. But the reason they are,
Yeah, they kind of are.
the reason that they are is because it's only the good ones that have lasted this long. All the ones that were trash, got thrown away or abused or forgotten about.
True.
But the true, cream of the crop remains around. So it seems like every guitar made in 1965 was fucking amazing. No, just the ones that have survived so long are.
Yeah, they're made incredibly well, and
Yeah.
so that they can survive this long, and they do sound great.
Yes.
They have the
And the
OG.
same phenomenon happens with music. We remember like the 60s and 70s as being like this golden era of music, but we forget that all the terrible music just got brushed under the rug. No one listens to that anymore, so no one remembers it anymore.
That's true, and
So-
there's a lot that has to do with like acclimating to certain sounds, like the way that era sounds, and
Yes,
like the
absolutely.
machines that were being used. Like I tried to listen to Machine Gun Kelly, and I'm not like against it or anything like that, but I recognized that the sound of that music for its genre was something foreign to me, and it put me off. Not that
I
it's
see.
bad.
No.
I think a lot of people, maybe even people listening to this show, will say that it's bad inherently without knowing anything about it.
Well, I mean, I liken that to food. They say you need to taste something 10 times before you actually know if you don't like it.
Yeah, and if you have toddlers, you need to offer them something 15 times before they even consider saying yes. So
Right.
apparently
That's
that's
very
the thing.
true. That's
Wow,
very
we've gone
true.
off the rails.
Anyways, back to Dragon Orbs.
Yeah, we both did. We
Yeah,
went way off
did,
the
yeah,
rails.
we did. Okay, so a Dragon Orb cannot be destroyed by any magical force, either arcane or divine. All these powers that I'm listing are specific to the Dragonlance versions of them. A 5e/Forgotten Realms powers are listed, but they're a bit more restrictive.
Okay.
So that last bit was supposed to actually be part of that long list of powers.
I see. Okay.
Let's quickly follow the 5 Dragon Orbs of Kryn before we get a bit more setting agnostic about it.
Nice.
So
okay.
each of the 5 orbs were sent to one of the 5 towers of high sorcery. The 5 towers of high sorcery are named as follows: Daltagoth, Losarcum, Wayrith, Palanthus, and Istar. We will refer to the orbs in the same manner, starting with the Daltagoth orb. So this orb was housed in the Tower of High Sorcery at Daltagoth. It was believed to be destroyed during the lost battles with the Istar Empire in year 19 pre-Cataclysm. Or is that post-Cataclysm? I'm actually not sure.
Oh shit.
I'm pretty sure it's pre-Cataclysm.
PC.
It had, because I'm pretty sure it's AC for after Cataclysm.
Ah.
It had an unknown color of mist inside of it, and it was either blue or black, but no one knows because it lost.
Can you imagine if they were both PC, like pre and post?
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh God, could you imagine? Losarcum orb. This orb was housed in the Tower of High Sorcery at Losarcum. It's believed to be destroyed also during the same lost battles of Istar Empire, either pre or post Cataclysm. We haven't decided yet. So those orbs, really, we don't know much about them. We know where they were. We know that they were probably destroyed in this particular era of war, which would have been so. Istar, we talked a little bit about Istar in our Dragonlance episode. They were like that holy empire that was like super on the side of good, but they'd gone so far they'd become evil in a way.
Okay.
Once they had solidified their hold and their stranglehold over Kryn, and there was no more like ogres to fight or evil dragons to fight or any of that stuff going on anymore, not only did they start turning on themselves by having like thought police and stuff like that, but one of the main things that they turned against was magic in general.
Oh.
And so that's what these lost battles are. This was literally the Empire of Istar taking out the Towers of High Sorcery.
I see.
And so
Okay.
these 2 towers got destroyed during these wars, and it's why we lost these orbs,
Fuck magic and fuck these towers.
basically. So now let's go to some orbs that we actually know a little bit more about. Next up is the Wayrith orb. The original location of this orb was the Tower of High Sorcery Wayrith, where it was displayed in plain view for many centuries. its purpose unknown by many mages who walked past it, because again, a lot of lost information over the millennia. Seemingly forgotten, it gathered dust upon a golden pedestal until the time of the lost battles, just before the Cataclysm. So there we go. PC is pre-Cataclysm.
Gotcha.
The wizards
Thank you, notes.
Yeah, the wizards asked a member of their order, Fealthus, to take it and keep it safe from the king priest of Istar.
Okay.
He kept it for over 300 years in Icewall Castle, where Lorana Kanan, one of the heroes of the Lance, and her friends took the orb with them following the death of Fealthus. First to southern Aragoth, and then finally to the Knights of Solamnia. The knights turned it over to a gnome named Nosh for study. By the way, I love that
A
name.
gnome named Nosh. That's my fucking fantasy band
Of a
name.
gnome named Nosh.
Yeah.
That's great. Soon the Whitestone Council convened, and the nations of the council began to bicker about who should own the orb. The arguments grew more heated and distressful to the point where there was nearly a secondary war on top of the current war that they were like trying to win, announced over the orb. So they're about to go to civil war over the orb.
A war within a war.
Yes. This was, of course, until a kender named Tazloff Burfoot decided all this fighting was really, really dumb, and why are we starting a war with our friends when literal dragon armies are taking over the world? So he picked up the orb and threw it into the Whitestone, shattering it into exactly 2,687 pieces. This orb was known to have a milky white mist inside of it, most likely standing for white dragons, and that's the end of that orb's life story.
Gross.
Moving
Why
on.
did it have to be milky white inside? Is there significance to the 2,687 pieces other than somebody took the time to count them?
Well, the point is that someone did. So remember that gnome named Nosh?
Yeah, I remember. That's my fantasy band name.
Yes.
My other one is a kender named
Kyle.
Kender named Kyle. That's not what it was.
Anyways, Nosh was it. So remember how in the Dragonlance episode we talked about how gnomes in Dragonlance have like a life quest?
Yeah.
That life quest belongs to their progeny if they fail to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was Nosh's family's life quest to study the dragon orbs and know everything about them. So it's actually when Taz does this, I kind of remember this from when I was 9 years old. Nosh is fucking devastated.
Yeah, totally.
Like super devastated. But he takes the time. He actually counts out the pieces because he continues studying the broken orb.
Even though his hands got so dirty from all that milky white stuff
Oh,
inside.
Jesus. Moving on. Palanthus Orb. Also known as the High Clear's Tower Orb. During the Third Dragon War, the orb was put at the High Clear's Tower so that the dragon traps in the tower could be utilized. There it sat from that war until the War of the Lance. Forgotten by all until Tazloff Burfoot found it.
That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lorana Kanan then attempted to use the orb with the help of Taz. Together, they were able to control it and lure two blue dragons down into the dragon traps, killing them and scattering all the Draconian troops. When the High Clear's Tower was hit with dragon breath, the tower collapsed on the dragon orb, and for many years, the orb was thought destroyed. Now the orb is thought to still exist, but it is unknown where. The orb was known to have a red mist inside of it, most likely standing for red dragons. Did I pique your interest here? What are we read now?
I had an idea about another thing,
Oh, okay.
and I'm writing it down so we don't forget.
Okay.
Big Dungeoncast plans.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, last up, we have the Istar Orb. During its creation, the spirit of the dragon named Viper was imprisoned into this orb. Following its creation, the orb was located at the Tower of High Sorcery at Istar. There it sat for many years until a young Sylvanesti elf by the name of Lorak Caledon arrived to take his test of high sorcery. There the orb spoke to Lorak and convinced him to steal the orb due to some imminent danger that was coming, and moved it to below the Tower of Stars in Sylvanost. That's where like the biggest elven nation at the time was.
Sylvanost?
Sylvanost for the Sylvanesti elves. Okay. Lorak had a pair of ivory hands created to hold the orb, but the orb changed them to look like large talon claw ones.
Ooh, okay.
Again, these orbs are capable of a lot of weird stuff. So, the orb sat for 300 years, through the Cataclysm and everything, until Sylvanesti was attacked during the War of the Lance by the dragon armies in the War of the Lance. It was at this time that Lorak ordered his people to leave, and he used the orb. He failed, though, in controlling the orb, and it took control of him instead. Lorak, a powerful wizard in his own right, was forced to use his magic to warp Sylvanesti into what was later named Lorak's Nightmare. The forest and everyone in it became twisted into an evil mockery of what they once were. Seeing the elven nation warping before their very eyes, the dragon armies quickly retreated out of the nation, desperately trying to reach safety. Lorik was also forced to summon Cyan Bloodbane, probably the most legendary green dragon in all of D&D.
Damn.
To watch over the elf. There, Lorik sat upon his throne until a young wizard named Raistlin Majir took possession of the orb.
We know them.
Yes, we know them. Very famous, very powerful people. Raistlin studied the orb and used it more than once to further his own personal goals. The power of the orb was intoxicating, but ultimately not worth the risk. The final time Raistlin attempted to use the orb, the Archmage only just barely managed to save himself from the ensuing magical struggle, while the orb itself cracked. Later, out of frustration, Raistlin ends up hurling the orb at a portal to the abyss and shattering it. This orb was known to have a green mist inside of it, most likely standing for green dragons.
Yeah. Gross.
So, that's the history of the Dragonlance versions of the Orbs of Dragonkind.
Wow, they just mostly got broken.
They mostly are completely destroyed and gone.
So what, there's like one?
Maybe.
Then?
There's one maybe.
One maybe?
The original version of them, and as you can see, pretty much all of them were destroyed, but Dragonlance was quite popular in its day, and the Dragon Orbs were too by proxy, so they decided to keep them around with hand waves, retcons, and shrugs. It's magic, right?
Yeah, like they got... These two that were lost were found, and this one that was destroyed was reassembled with fucking no magic.
Yeah, Nosh figured it out.
He noshed that shit right back together. He got all the jizz in there. Every drop.
No. All right, let's talk about Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
So in Forgotten Realms, it is canonical that the original 5 Orbs of Dragonkind were created on the planet Krynn. Some sources claim some of these dragon orbs made their way to Toril, while others claim that different orbs, called Orbs of Draconic Influence, function identically to dragon orbs, were crafted by the dragons of Toril. One of the Orbs of Dragonkind, or at least an enchanted item of similar renown, was hidden away in the Tomb of Damara. This artifact allowed its owner to transform into a powerful red dragon, but it was destroyed by a wizard from Freedale. So even these ones are just getting fucking destroyed.
Yeah, they're too strong. They must be destroyed.
Yeah. A frost giant named Gritmort took possession of an Orb of Dragonkind sometime in the late 15th century DR in an attempt to become a Jarl and ascend in the Shattered Ordning. So that's relatively recently, because the shattering of the Ordning happened in Storm King's Thunder. Is that what it's called? Storm King's...
The adventure module?
The adventure module.
Storm King's Thunder.
So that's, I mean, at this point, it's like 4 years ago, but that's relatively recent in
Are you able to explain what does this shattering of the ordning mean? Because I thought the ordning, I know it was like written, but I thought it was like just an ideal. Like,
well, it is. So, but it is also upheld by Anem, the Allfather.
Yeah. So Anem was like, "Fuck this."
Oh man, I don't remember the details, but I think it was something along those lines. Like, ordning's fucking bullshit, yo. Figure it out. Basically, make a new ordning.
As long as you guys remember that I'm still your dad.
Yeah, basically. I don't remember the details. I'm sure it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't Anem, but like, the ordning itself became shattered.
Okay.
And Gritmort tried to become a Jarl during all this. His plans were thwarted by Minx, Boo, and friends. The orb was then given to the custody of the white dragon, Nilanthe. So I know who Minsk and Boo are. They're like a comic duo where it's Boo's his hamster, Minx, I think, is a ranger. I'm not sure. He's kind of like I wouldn't call him a simpleton, but he's a little, his intelligence probably innate.
Okay.
And he talks to his hamster, and they go on wacky adventures together, and they do cool stuff.
And they
gave the orb. They took the orb from Grimmort because he sucked, and they gave it to this white dragon because apparently this white dragon didn't suck.
Okay.
I don't know the details. I didn't read that story. So.
All right. I'm sure it's fun.
I'm sure it's fun. The powers of dragon orbs in Forgotten Realms are as follows. A creature can try to control an orb of Dragonkind by looking at it and speaking its command word. However, the magic on these artifacts has been warped over the centuries, so an orb might also attempt to gain control of its user in order to pursue the goals of the essence trapped inside it. If successful in gaining control over it, the user of an Orb of Dragonkind is granted access to several spells, such as Cure Wounds, Daylight, Death Ward, and Scrying. The main power of the orb is to telepathically call all evil dragons in a 40-mile radius to its position. Power that can be only used once every hour. Which I don't know why you need to use that more than once an hour.
Yeah, I don't either.
Although resilient, Orbs of Dragonkind can be destroyed by sufficiently powerful magic weapons or by a disintegrate spell. This is pointedly different from the Dragonlance ones, which are very fragile physically, but cannot be messed with or destroyed by any arcane or divine magic.
Okay, for sure. Minx and Boo have my attention.
We'll do an episode on them if you want.
It reminds me of Spelljammer with like, you know how they were like pulling from. You had to be like in it when Spelljammer came out to like understand all the jokes and stuff that they came up with in that setting, like originally.
Yeah.
And so it hits better for people that like experienced it in like like the 80s, 70s.
This would have been in the 90s. I think.
Wow,
90s.
that late, huh?
I think 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, so people are like, yeah, it was referencing like the Space Killer Clowns or whatever, and like stuff like that. What was that? What it was?
I don't know. I mean, the killer clowns are in the Spelljammer book. That
Yeah,
came out
like
recently, yeah.
but that was based off of like some movie that was out at the time.
I think so, but I'm not positive.
No, yeah, but that's the idea here. Is like if I was in the Minx and Boo era, like it would have made more sense than it does.
Yeah,
just, like,
probably.
reading it off the page,
Almost definitely.
But since I don't know anything about it, it just seems like fucking crazy that that's there.
Yeah, I can
But
see
it
that.
probably makes sense in the canon of the time.
Yeah, if you're into Minx and Boo.
So if you guys are wondering what the opposite of timelessness is, it's Minx and Boo, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the clowns from Spelljammer.
Let's take a short rest.
Rest in peace, Aster Eater. We've returned.
Indeed we have.
We're fucking back.
Indeed we are.
Let's get in the ball. Let's get on the ball. Let's
take control of the ball.
let's take possession of the ball and run it up court. Or
So-
kick it. What are we doing?
So Pathfinder also has dragon orbs.
Wow, that's cool.
Yes, it is pretty
Can
cool.
you make wishes on them?
Nope, they function very similar to the D&D ones with some variation, which we're going to go over.
Insert reindeer conversation here. Let's move on.
Let's move on. The Orbs of Dragonkind in Pathfinder are major artifacts granting power over dragons of a particular type. So we're kind of
There
back
we
to square
go.
one. They were like, you know what? That is the right way to do it, so that's how we're doing it. Orbs are known to exist for each type of chromatic dragon and metallic dragon, and varieties for each type of imperial dragon and primal dragon. So imperial dragons are more akin to Asian dragons.
Okay, sure.
And primal dragons are dragons that are native to what's called the Great Beyond in Pathfinder, the planes of water, air, fire, earth, and shadow.
Ooh, fun.
So kind of similar to the inner planes of D&D, a little different.
Yeah.
But
tweaked.
basically there are dragons for each of those planes of existence. And there
shadow
are
dragon.
orbs for each of those types of dragons.
Shadow dragons seem cool.
Yeah, they are. So although the full history of the Orbs of Dragonkind has largely been lost, incomplete lore places their origin during the original conflict between the draconic gods Apsu and Dahak and their followers.
Okay.
So that when I first read that, I was like, oh, so this is like their Bahamut and Tiamat. And to that I say, not exactly.
All right.
The dragons' slaughter of one another during their conflict led to the draconic mother goddess Tiamat to shed 10 tears, which landed on the slain bodies of heroes of each of the dragon species.
That's 1 tear per eye because there should be 2 eyes per head, and there's 5 heads per body on a Tiamat.
That's absolutely right.
Awesome. Good maths.
Souls of these dragons entered the crystallized tears, transforming them into powerful artifacts that granted immense power and authority over others of their kind. A real quick on the Apsu, the hawk thing. Apsu is Pathfinder's kind of equivalent to Bahamut. Dahak, or Dahak, or however you say it, is
A bird.
no, it is the god, the deity, the draconic deity, child son of Apsu and Tiamat. So,
Oh, okay.
So in this world, the Bahamut Tiamat equivalents are actually romantically involved, and their first son is Dahak. Problem is, Dahak's a fucking asshole and super, super evil. And Apsu, the father, super not, very lawful good.
Okay.
So these two start going at it. And Tiamat is the mom who's just crying because the two people she loves the most are killing each other.
Oh, okay. I see. That
But
makes
in the
sense.
end, Tiamat sides with Dahak and goes the chaotic evil route, as far as I could tell. So
All right.
yeah, it's like the Tiamat Bahamut story, but a little weirder.
Just a little weirder where
Little
the
weirder,
mom
yeah.
backs up the son.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yes.
Okay.
The orbs remained major figures in Draconic history following the flight of Apsu and his followers through the material plane, becoming part of Draconic hordes to be hidden away or used as tools to enslave other dragons. The orbs have persisted into the modern day as both coveted and feared items amongst dragonkind. Which dragons have killed one another to possess, but allied to keep out of the possession of their races. So,
Interesting.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most significant property of the Orbs of Dragonkind is that they allow their wielders to magically control dragons. The wielder of an orb can use it to exert powerful mental control over any dragon whose species matches that which the orb is attuned to, effectively enslaving them to their will. Ownership of an orb also grants immunity to the breath weapon of that dragon species, in addition to the ability of the wielder to use such a breath weapon 3 times a day.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Further, someone using an orb can detect the presence of any dragon within 10 miles of their location and of their orb's particular variety within 100 miles.
Did you watch Last Airbender?
The first one, the original?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'd love to go up with the orb like against the blue and be like, "What? No lightning today?"
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Prince Zuko from Last Airbender.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
An orb of Dragonkind also allows its wielder to communicate with any other person currently wielding an orb of their own. As most such figures are dragons themselves, this exposes wielders to the risk of discovery and retribution by dragons enraged at the thought of a non-dragon enslaving their kin.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if you are not a dragon, you do not want to be caught with one of these by dragons.
Yeah.
They will be very upset.
Yeah, they're gonna ask you some pointed questions,
Indeed.
to say the least.
The souls used to create each orb remain within the artifacts. Although they are dormant most of the time, they can occasionally be awakened by exceptional individuals. However, the spirits within the orbs are capable of enslaving those who would wield them to their own ancient will. So very similar to the D&D versions, but a little bit more... I don't know. I feel like this lore is a little cleaner than
Yeah.
a lot of stuff we just recently talked about.
Because it's all tied to Dragonlance and D&D. So in this, it's just kind of like free flowing, like not really tied to a setting other than like
Yeah,
the
they
Pathfinder
basically
world.
they had the clean slate to work with.
Yeah,
they're like,
totally.
oh, we can have them, but we don't have to deal with all this other stuff.
Yeah, these
so-
fucking 5 wars that we don't know what
Yeah,
order they're in or
exactly.
whatever.
Right.
Okay, and
So-
that's inherent to the Dragonlance lore, right? Is like not knowing those details about the war and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, because when you're reading the novels, like all you know is it was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything's very mysterious.
And then when you play your
Post-cataclysm.
setting, they don't have to fill any of that stuff in because the DM can fill that in. or the
Exactly,
GM.
exactly
Okay,
right.
Great. Okay, I like Pathfinder's take on this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It
All
is-
right,
it is
so
cleaner.
we are going to go over the published stat blocks for this stuff. You're going to start with the 5e1?
Yeah, we'll start there. So the Orb of Dragonkind, which this is just one orb, right? Like, it's,
Yeah, one of the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the picture's green. I don't know if that matters, but it's a wondrous item, an artifact that requires attunement. Now, should I read this lore bit? Probably not. Huh?
Probably not.
Let me get past the lore here. Orb is 10 inches. You went over that.
When
Grows to 20
attuned.
inches.
While attuned.
Yeah, while attuned to an orb, you can use an action to peer into the orb's depths and speak its command word. Pineapples. You must make them. You must then make a DC 15 Charisma check. On a successful check, you control the orb for as long as you remain attuned to it. On a failed check, you become charmed by the orb for as long as you remained attuned to it. Which I don't think you'll be uncharmed by it yourself. In that case, if it wants to
Someone
take
will
control
have
of your
to-
brains.
Yeah.
While you are charmed by the orb, you can't voluntarily end your attunement to it. There it is. And the orb casts suggestion on you at will, save DC 18, urging you to work toward the evil ends it desires. The dragon essence within the orb might want many things: the annihilation of a particular people, freedom of the orb, to spread suffering into the world, to advance the worship of Tiamat, or something else the GM
Takesis.
thinks is cool. Yeah, Takesis. Random properties. An Orb of Dragonkind has the following random... because this item is technically being ported into Forgotten Realms, like from the D&D Beyond aspect, huh?
Yes.
Because it mentions Tiamat instead of Takesis, right?
Yeah, well, it says worship of Takesis, Tiamat's name on Kryn.
That's not what I'm reading here.
Oh, I'm on Roll20. What are you on?
Yeah, I'm on D&D Beyond.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there you go.
Random properties. An Orb of Dragonkind has the following random properties: 2 minor beneficial properties, 1 minor detrimental property, 1 major detrimental property. Does it?
So
is that anywhere? I don't see that anywhere.
I think because these are artifacts, right?
Yeah.
They function a little bit different from.
So detrimental and benefit, these properties, if you will, should be detailed somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm trying
Looks like you're looking
to look it up.
Let me get through the spells if you find it before we start reading.
Okay,
it. So,
yeah, there's tables. There's tables that you can roll on.
Oh, okay.
It looks
Should we
like.
detail that? It seemed like that's kind of a lot.
Oh no, yeah, no. If these tables are even canonical, which I'm not sure they are, so.
Okay, I mean they must be if they're listed in the.
Well, no, they're listed on some other site. So.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not here, which seems weird unless they're. It doesn't look like they're coming up. Anyway, spells. The orb has 7 charges and regains 1d4 plus 3 expended charges daily at dawn. If you control the orb, you can use an action and expend 1 or more charges to cast one of the following spells. That's a save DC 18 from it. Cure wounds at 5th level with 3 charges. Daylight, that's at 1 charge. Death Ward at 2 charges, and Scrying at 3 charges. You can also use an action to cast the Detect Magic spell from the orb without using any charges.
So it looks like the list for the properties are in Chapter 7 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, specifically for artifacts, yeah.
That makes sense.
And I imagine you would roll on them or choose the ones you want.
Yeah, so
if you're a
reference that
dungeon
section in the DMG, so because I'm sure that applies to other things.
Yes, so all artifacts have properties.
Oh, cool. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I've never run like an artifact like this in a game.
I
that
haven't
required that.
either, but that's because I usually just make up my own stuff all the time.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the point. Call dragons. When you control the orb, you can use an action to cause the artifact to issue a telepathic call that extends in all directions for 40 miles. Fuck. Evil dragons in range. It doesn't say fuck. I said that. Evil dragons in range feel compelled to come to the orb as soon as possible by the most direct route. I was thinking about my Sapphire Dragon mini. Like, when the fuck would this thing ever fucking come out of the ground? Because I moved it from our table back to its place, and I was like, whoosh, on my way. I was like, you never fucking see this guy flying. It's always underground.
Yeah.
You might when this is popping off.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I just interrupted myself and lost my place. Good job, Brian. Dragon deities such as Tiamat are unaffected by this call. Dragons drawn to the... Oh, can you imagine Tiamat being within 40 miles of you and being like, nah, I ain't doing that shit. Y'all have fun up there. Dragons drawn to the orb might be hostile towards you for compelling them against their will. Almost 100%.
Almost 100%, definitely.
Yeah, like a bronze dragon's going to be like, I was just looking for someone to talk to.
No.
Lovely to see you. Don't ever fucking do that shit again, though. Once you have used this property, it can't be used again for 1 hour. Destroying an orb. Why is this such a fixture? An orb of Dragonkind appears fragile, but is impervious to most damage.
Bullshit.
Unless you throw it at something, at Whitestone or an abyssal portal. Wouldn't it go through the portal? Like, I didn't get that part. The portal was like, you shall not pass.
I think the idea was that, okay, number one, opening a portal to the abyss in normal D&D is very difficult.
Yeah.
Opening a portal to the abyss in Dragonlance is Archmage high level holy fucking shit level magic.
Mm-hmm.
And you just threw a highlight holy fucking shit orb into it. And so the two magical
the opposing
things,
forces.
it's just like a nuclear explosion, basically.
Cool. And everybody died.
Yeah. And everyone died, except
for
for no
me.
one did, because Raceland survived
why?
that.
Sorry, that was a Weird Al reference, a very obscure one. An orb of Dragonkind appears fragile, but is impervious to most damage, including the attacks and breath weapons of dragons. A disintegrate spell or one good hit from a +3 magic weapon is sufficient to destroy an orb, however. The editor for that let this sentence through is just like, that's funny.
Just one good hit.
You just need one good hit. As long as you got a +3 magic weapon, which is really fucking hard to get.
Yeah,
or should be.
They're endgame stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the 5th edition version of them. Let's talk about the Pathfinder ones.
Okay. Let's see. The Orb of Dragonkind. It is, so we're going to go over tags here. Unique, arcane, artifact, and enchantment. This, you can find this in the Game Mastery Guide, page 110. I don't know how up to date this website is, but hopefully that's right.
Yeah,
and then
I'm sure
Pathfinder number 150, Broken Promises, page 75, which I assume is a magazine? Based off its numbering?
I don't know, but
Perhaps a pamphlet?
Yeah, possibly.
Okay. I'll try to learn more about that. Well,
It
I'm not
could just be their
recording a
150th
podcast.
adventure path for all I know. I don't know.
Yeah. we're still learning Pathfinder. Be patient with us, or let us know in the comments. That's good. Each of the legendary orbs of Dragonkind contains. Oh, yep. Let's skip down to something I can actually read here.
While holding an orb.
While holding an orb of Dragonkind, you are immune to the breath weapon of the dragon variety associated with the orb. An orb of Dragonkind also grants a number of additional senses. You can communicate verbally and visually with the bearers of the orbs as if you were in the same room with them. You know if there are any dragons within 10 miles of you at all times. Neat. It's good. It's a good skill. I'd like to have that now.
Mm-hmm.
This extends to 100 miles for dragons of the type associated with the orb. Wow. If an associated dragon is within 1 mile, you know which direction the dragon is from you and the dragon's age, such as young, adult, or ancient. Okay, perverts. Each orb grants a 10th level arcane innate spell that you can cast at will, determined by the specific orb. I said perverts as a joke. That directly translates to their power level.
It does.
The Orb of Gold Dragonkind can convey the innate spells of any other orbs, as well as their activated abilities. But it can grant each individual power only once per day. In addition, the bearer of the gold orb can use its 3-action activation to attempt to cast Dominate on the bearer of another orb if they are within 1 mile.
Oh, so it's like the gold orb, the best of the orbs?
Probably the best orb.
Yeah. Okay.
As if that bearer were a dragon of the associated type within 500 feet. The last reports of the Orb of Gold Dragonkind on Galarian indicate the orb has been destroyed. However.
Okay, so it doesn't exist anymore.
GMs running campaigns in settings other than the Age of Lost Omens might decide if the gold orb is still intact for their campaigns.
Age of Lost Omens is the periodic era that 2nd edition Pathfinder is existing in.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
The Pathfinderverse. The Pathverse. The Finder. The Unifinder.
The
The Finderverse. Bearing an Orb of Dragonkind earns you the enmity of all Dragonkind forever. Because you profited from the enslavement of the dragon within the orb, even if you later lose the orb. Great. Cool. Sounds like some dragon.
Like, I don't even know what this is. I just found it. Doesn't matter. Forever.
Sucks to suck. Get good. Spell granted. DC 14. Black dragons get darkness. Blue dragons, hallucinatory terrain. Brass dragons speak with animals. Bronze dragons control water. Copper dragons, hideous laughter, which is like Tasha's hideous laughter, I'm sure. Green dragon is entangle. Red dragon is wall of fire. Silver dragon, detect alignment, evil only. White dragon, wall of ice.
Now, you get all of these. These are the spells that you get per orb, and you get them at 10th level casting.
Nice. Yeah. Powerful. Activate, and this little symbol with the 3
that means
three action activations.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly right.
So activate for 3-action command, frequency once per round, effect, you cast a 10th level dominate spell at DC 40 on a dragon of the type associated with the orb within 500 feet, except the effect lasts for 1 month rather than unlimited.
Okay. I was like, 1 month, that's a long time rather than forever. I was like, oh, it's a downgrade.
The dragon does not receive its status bonus to saving throws against magic. The dragon is then temporarily immune to further domination via the orb for 24 hours. It has a level 2 activate.
Or 2 action.
2 action activate. Envision, interact, frequency 3 times per day. Effect, you breathe an elemental blast that deals 25d6 damage.
Holy shit.
That's DC 40 basic reflex save, and either a 60-foot cone or a 100-foot line, your choice. The breath's damage type matches the breath weapon of the dragon type associated with the Orb of Dragonkind. Acid for the black orb, electricity for the blue orb, and so on. Destruction, an Orb of Dragonkind.
We always got to talk about breaking them.
It has to. It's just part of the lore of this thing.
I guess it is made of glass.
An Orb of Dragonkind violently shatters and explodes when exposed to the breath weapon of a dragon who is a descendant of the dragon trapped within. The explosion deals damage as the 2-action activation above to all creatures within 90 feet.
So it kind of has a death throw, if you will.
Yes, there is also a flawed Orb of Dragonkind, but
we don't have to go.
I'm not going to read that shit.
Okay, so you got anything to add about the Orbs of Dragonkind, man?
Man, it's it just seems like they're meant to be destroyed. Like, almost like they write that in there because the conclusion you're supposed to draw from this is to blow that shit up.
I do think
bad to have around.
They are bad to have around, and I think that oftentimes it's just easier to get rid of it. Just like, you know what? What if we just destroyed it?
Yeah, because you're drawing the ire of dragons.
Yeah.
And they know.
Yeah.
You all know where each other are.
It's similar. It's similar with the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. It's like, you could use it, but it's way more trouble than it's worth. let's just go to Mount Doom.
Yeah, let's just go to Mount Doom. So that's why they're detailed. I like how it's part of the lore and it's in the description of the item. It's like, you want to destroy this shit, right?
Yeah,
you probably do.
You probably do. Yeah.
Let's just stat that out so we don't have to bother DMs with how to.
Yeah, sure.
Or GMs. I should start saying GMs more. Start making that regular.
That's something I don't care one way or another about. I mean, it's just I think it's lame that Wizards decided to go out of their way to get a hold of the trademark of Dungeon Master.
True. I like.
Anyways.
Honestly, I've always liked Game Master better, but the language Dungeon Master is so inherently tied to D&D that it became normal.
Yeah,
but
that's
when
true.
you leave the tabletop talking space and you say Dungeon Master in like a public setting, people don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
That's very
and
true.
They think it's sex stuff.
They do think it's
so it's better to use Game Master
You're probably
in
right.
public spaces.
You're
based
absolutely
off of that.
right.
Yeah.
All right, let's get ready for a long rest.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to The Long Rest. My name is Brian and I'll be guiding you on your journey to a better night's sleep. Just kidding, Will had an emergency so he had to get going, so I'm doing this one alone. So if you guys want to support the Dungeoncast, you can do so, even more than you already have, because you listen to the show, and that's super critical, honestly. It's like a 20's worth of crit. So good job, thank you guys very much. But if you want to go a step farther, if you want to go beyond, go to patreon.com/dungeoncast where you can get early episodes of this show ad-free. At the higher tiers, we've got special merch. I know you love your merch. We also have a merch shop. And hey, did you guys know we have a website? It's the Dungeoncast.com. There's stuff on there about Starseeker's Guide to Drakenstar, our Kickstarter book based off of Super Quest Saga, our actual play show that you should check out. Data about me and Will, all kinds of stuff. I'd go check it out. It'd be awesome. If you want to reach out to us, you can on the dungeoncast@gmail.com. We do check our emails and respond to them when we can. And we also have a P.O. box. If you guys want to send something out to the show, check that address in the notes below. It's there. That's all I really have right now. We've got some news on some upcoming projects that we're going to get to on next episode. And when Will's here, we can all talk about that together. But some cool stuff in the works, and I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.
The Dungeoncast.